This location is Clockhouse Drive, and we have some very nice rock outcrops either side of the road. And as a geologist, we would look at rocks like this, make observations to work out things like, well, rock type, age, environment of deposition, and so on. So what sort of observations could we make about an exposure like this? Well, we could remark about the colour. Colour is important because in general, the darker the rock, the finer the grain the rock is, so we can use it as an indicator of grain size. We can take a specimen of the rock, what we call a hand specimen, and we can look at this under a hand lens and look at the individual grains and the relationship between the grains, as well as perhaps identifying some of the minerals. As well as looking at the rocks in hand specimen, we can also stand back and look at the outcrop, the whole of the outcrop, and what we can see very clearly are linear features, or they're in fact planes, that run across the outcrop, these sort of horizontal features that you can see partway towards the top. And these are bedding planes. These form when the rock was deposited originally millions of years ago. And if you put all these observations together, the colour, the grain size and so on, we can start working out what the rock is. So from the bedding, we know it's a sedimentary rock. It's a rock that's formed from the deposition of grains, perhaps in a marine or a river or even on land. We know by looking at the grain size and the composition of the grains that this rock type is a sandstone, a very common sedimentary rock. We can take that interpretation further by looking at the outcrop as a whole, and we can work out that this sandstone was deposited within a river system. And if we find fossils within the rocks, we can date them. And it tells us the fossils in these rocks tell us that these were deposited, these were formed in a period of time that we call the Carboniferous, about 310 million years ago. We can also use modern photographic techniques to develop 3D models of the outcrop, which we can then interpret within a computer. And you can take a simple smartphone or a more sophisticated camera, and you take a photograph. But not just one photograph, a series of overlapping photographs. And then you can combine those together using a technique that we call photogrammetry to build up a 3D model. And we can then build up our interpretation of the rock type, the environment, and so on.